What's going on, all you gamers? Here we are back with some more Outriders, and today I'm going to be going over my budget build guide for this Devastator right here, this funky looking kind of spaceman fella. So if you want to know how to power your way through those CTs all the way up to ct15, then stay tuned, that's coming up next. Welcome back, all you guys and girls. As always, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox, then why not hit that subscribe and bell icon? I'll be bringing you a lot of the latest and greatest, especially for Outriders and all of the new games coming out. Fingers crossed I'll be able to cover Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis once it hits, and any other nice game where it's looting, shooting, or just gearing up in general. But for today, I'm sure you're not here for that. You're here to find out what this kind of astronaut superhero fella kind of entails. It wasn't what I was going for, but it's what we've ended up with. Now, in all honesty, I kind of struggled a little bit with Devastator. He didn't quite dish out as much damage as I wanted, and I could either tend to make him completely crazy tanky and never die and never complete anything, or kind of do enough damage to clear, but I was falling over quite a bit. This right here seems to be a happy medium, but again, once you get to those higher levels, especially ct15, you will need a bit of luck in gearing up to make kind of better times. For the moment, you'll probably only be able to do Archways of Enoch and I'd say Scorched Lands to ct15 golds on this kind of a build style, but we are just using tier 2s, so you will almost definitely be able to adapt it and make it stronger. Right, so what I'm going to do is chuck on a little bit of footage and show you myself just about barely scraping ct15 gold on Archways of Enoch, just to show you that this can kind of clear the content, even though, like I said, it is a little bit slower. I'm not going to lie, you are tanky as anything, but it is a bit of a struggle. You will need to start putting tier 3s in if you can.
Outrider, there's a storm coming your way.
There's a well here.
Right, so for the weapon, literally any weapon you can find with death chains on it. Really nice, really easy. If you can, try and get something like healing received on it, just to give yourself a bit of viability. A little bit of healing is always nice. For the first slot, I've put on resistance breaker. In hindsight, I think probably, I haven't tried it as much, but I think vulnerability will work in your favour. Test them both out, see what you prefer, but I think vulnerability bullets will work out a little bit better, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, any gun that you can crack on with that, make sure it's got death chains and either resistance breaker or vulnerability, and you'll be able to crack through the enemies quite nicely by using your anomaly powers. That's right, I said anomaly powers because I probably should have mentioned at the start, this is almost a pure anomaly build. So you will be using a lot of fun stuff and hopefully enjoying the anomaly build as you crack through those CT tiers. Now secondly, chuck on whatever you want. You won't be switching to this unless you run out of ammo, so pretty much pick a gun for your first that you're not going to run out of ammo. Thirdly, I would say probably if you can, try to chuck on the opposite to what you've done up here, just in case you wanted to on a boss switch over. So for example, because I've got that, if I wanted to, I would then switch to my handgun first and hit them with that to give myself a little bit of vulnerability on the boss, crack through them a little bit easier, and then I switch to my main and I've got the resistance breaker on that one. Nice and easy, works really well. It's not going to light the world on fire. If you can get any kind of a tier 3 mod in there, such as a comet or anything really nice damage, you'll make things much faster, ridiculously so. But this is just the kind of gearing up build, so we've put on what we can. Just over here, and for the headgear, we've got anomaly power, cooldown reduction and status power. I would honestly say for every piece of gear you'll want anomaly power, cooldown reduction and either skills life leech or status power, whatever you feel is best. For myself, I would probably go with skills life leech, that way you're just going to have a lot of survivability and you may well be able to swap one of the mods out that I've put in and change it for a more damaging one. Now this right here comes with Earthquake, inflicts bleed on enemies damaged by the skill. Really nice, really easy to use. We're using earthquakes constantly and you want that bleed effect. You'll be getting more damage from that and you'll be getting a nice chunk of healing. Make sure you've got that on your build. And underneath that is Earth's Legacy. Earthquake increases the skills range by 60%. Now you might not think that sounds anything special, but believe me, that hits a lot more targets. You kill a lot more things, you capture a lot more things are bleeding. Make sure you've got that on your build. Just down here and you've got anomaly power, status and close range damage. Like I said, I'm not going to bother telling you what to put on for the rest of them. Make sure you've got the 3 I said at the start, anomaly, cooldown and either status or skills life leech on all of them and you'll be golden. Now with this I've put on human comet. That's gravity leap, increases the skills damage by 129,233. Really nice, a really fun move to use, does a lot of area effect, and having that extra damage, it doesn't actually help you quite as much when you get to that ct15, but before that, all the way up to I'd say probably 13, even at 14 as well, it is really significant. The amount of enemies that pop in an area effect because of that move and because of you having this mod on is absolutely amazing, and it will just mean that you melt things like butter all the way up to I'd say about probably CT 12, 13, and then after that it becomes a little bit tougher. Just down the bottom there and you've got Bloody Boost. Boosts your damage against enemies afflicted with bleed by 15%. Like I said, everything you're going to try and make sure that it's kind of bleeding. You want that on your build. It's going to mean you've got 15% against pretty much everything. Just down here and we're going to be having a damage absorber. Increases your armor by 52,659 and resistance by 10%. This is absolutely just one of the best mods in the game for survivability. Really nice, a little bit of resistance, and the armor is really nice on Devastator because you get quite a chunk of armor in most of the skill trees anyway. Just down the bottom and we've got rejuvenation. So as you can see, we are definitely tanky enough. Receive 14,158 firepower, 7,005 anomaly power and 40,957 armor bonus for 8 seconds whenever your health is replenished. This on a 10-second timer cooldown, but to be honest, you're replenishing your health almost constantly. It means you get a bit more anomaly power about yourself, a bit more armor, it means you got a bit more tankiness and survivability, and you hit a little bit harder. Really nice mod to have. If you don't think you need that, then chuck something else in. If you can, put something that gives you a little bit more damage as you start to rise through the ranks, as long as you've got that skills life leech in your actual kind of gear sets just here, I think you should be golden. I haven't got on all of mine, so I struggled a little bit on the ct15s. Just over here and we've got ground crush. Earthquake increases the skill's base damage by 84,001. Like I said, we're using Earthquakes more than probably anything. Make sure you put that on and you'll just give yourself a significant damage boost, especially because you're going to be hitting most things with that extra range. And just down the bottom, Adrenaline. Whenever your health drops below 30%, all your skill cooldowns are reduced by 50%. Now, you may not think it, but this one actually gives you quite a big damage boost because you're using your skills a lot more often. Don't forget, every time you go under that, which at 14s and 15s you almost definitely will, probably all the way through you will, to be perfectly honest, you're going to get that and you're going to make sure that you've got a lot more of your skills. And that is everything. So it's going to be your golem, it's going to be your earthquakes, and it's going to be your gravity leaps. It's going to keep you alive, it's going to make sure you do more damage, and it's going to mean that you're going to be able to get a lot more skills out, which will help the next thing as well. Which is this just here. So Earthquake, the skill can be activated one more time before triggering the cooldown. So basically you're going to be using that again, meaning you've got 2 Earthquakes, but also just down the bottom there, Untamed Power. Using skills deals 43,590 damage to enemies within a 5 meter radius around you. The damage is equal to 30% of your anomaly power. Basically we're going to have a little bit more than that because of our anomaly power going up, and it means that every time we melee someone, every time we use a skill, every time this thing just there procs and gives us more skills, as long as we're close range we'll be hitting them and doing a big chunk of area effect damage. Really nice, really easy, face tank everything and destroy everything as you go, and works really well in all tanky builds where you're close range to everything constantly. Now, as you can see from these stats, we have a fair chunk of health. Just up there, 20,000 is really nice. But even better than that, look at that armor rating. This is before we've procced anything. 80% damage reduction. That's physical damage reduction at 80%. Absolutely huge. And just over here, our firepower is never going to light the world on fire, but the anomaly power, to be perfectly honest, with no amazing mods on, is actually pretty darn good. So the skills we're going to be using is this one right here first whenever we can, because proccing Golem just means that we're going to get a significant rise in our anomaly power, meaning we're going to hit harder with everything. Untamed power is going to hit harder, you're going to be using your melee which procs untamed power, and you're going to be using all your skills after this and trying to nuke everything in an area effect. At the ct14s and 15s, I must admit, it does slow down. You do hit kind of not quite as big numbers as you can in some of the other builds or with some of the better gear sets. As soon as you get gold, chuck that in your build and you'll do much more damage, but it works really well in this playstyle, and like I said, until you gear up, this works really nicely. Next up, going to be using Earthquakes whenever you want to hit everything and cause bleed effects. That right there is going to give you regen on your health. It's also going to mean that you're getting that 15% extra damage on them. And finally, this right here, use it however you please. If you want to nuke a whole area, jump up, ground pound, gravity leap in, and you're going to smash everything. They'll all be destroyed, or they'll just be hit for a really big number, wounding them, and then you can follow up with whatever you want, such as an earthquake or even a melee. Or if you really needed to and you were worried, you could kind of use it on an ad that's further back, get out of the situation and kind of survive a little bit, get your health back, kind of run away to live another day kind of thing. So finally, coming over to the skill tree. Now, just down here we've got Anomaly Reservoir, increases your anomaly power by 6%. As you can see, we're going this bottom tree, so we're going pretty much full anomaly, but we're making ourselves as tanky as can be to survive every situation so that you don't have to worry about those ct14s and 15s. Like I said, the timer will not really be a favour. You are not going to clear things quite as fast as some other builds probably do, but you will survive everything, jump into a group or do some of the ones with the higher timers, and you should be fine on the ct14s and 15s. But on the lower ones, you should be golden and just make your way up the ranks absolutely amazingly with that build style. Just over here, you've got Seismic skill cooldown is reduced by 15%. Just over here, increase your anomaly power by 6%. Just here we've got using protection skills increases anomaly power by 45% for 10 seconds. Like I said, you're going to use your golem whenever you want that boosted. Make sure you're using it whenever it's up and then go into battle. Just up here, and when I can find it, just up here, reduce protection skills cooldown by 15%. And just over here, after using a class melee skill, increase resistance piercing by 15% for each hit enemy for 10 seconds. All that basically means is make sure when you're in a big group of ads, you activate that melee, slam on the ground, get a nice bit of resistance piercing about yourself, and then go to work with your skills. Just down here, we've got a little bit of increased resistance piercing. Just over here, increase your anomaly power by 6%. Reduce seismic skills cooldown by 15% so that we can use our earthquakes as much as possible. Again, more anomaly power. Just over here, double the damage of class melee skills. That way, when you're in the mix, you can really tear people up, especially going up the ranks. When you're using this at lower ranks, you will absolutely smash people to bits, and it only becomes a little bit more of a struggle as you start hitting those 13, 14s and 15s. Next up, and we've got Executioner. Increases damage by 20% against enemies below 30% of health. Whenever you can pick that up in a skill tree, pretty much go for it, and it works out in your favour. Next up, we've got increase your anomaly power by 6%. Just down here, this is where we're getting our regen from. This is where we're kind of making our build viable to stay alive. Bleed afflicted on enemies deals 30% more damage, followed up by you are healed for 25% of your bleed damage. Believe it or not, no matter how tanky you are, 9 times out of 10, if you can't kill fast enough and get your energy back that way, you will need some kind of viability in your build for health regen. Otherwise, you still fall over. There's lots of things that kind of cut you to pieces in this. Health regen works best as far as I can see, even better than armor 9 out of 10 times. Just over here, increase your skill leech by 6%. Just up here, increase your armor bonus by 40% of your anomaly power. Like I said, that right there is absolutely golden, and it means that you've got a lot of armor. Also, don't forget you've got rejuvenation, meaning that you'll have even more than that a lot of the time. Just over here, and we've got increased armor by 20% and resistance by 20% for 10 seconds when your skills end. So that right there is really needed. Basically, after your skills end, it means we'll have 30% resistance on our character, which is needed for those higher levels, especially with the brood mothers and such. Otherwise, you probably just fall over without any resist. Just over here, this is your choice. You can either get a bit more resist, or just down here you can do a bit more extra damage. Honestly, I have not tried it with that, so kind of have a little play around to see what works in your favour. It may actually work out better to get that one. I'm not 100% sure, but I would say they're probably quite close. We've got a lot of resistance piercing anyway, so see what you find best. But I've gone for the moment as much resistance piercing as possible to hit them quite hard with my skills. Finally, last but not least, you need to make sure you get this. We don't hit the hardest in the world with no tier 3 mods, so you want this to increase your seismic skills damage by 50%. Like I said, we're using those earthquakes an awful lot. Chuck that on and just go to town whenever you can. If you want to adapt this build, change a few mods around, or like I said, if you find some better ones, say for example Captain Hunter or any of the tier 3s that can really help him out in his actual build, you could even get another earthquake. That would make this much easier and clear much faster. But for kind of gearing up and kind of making your way through, tearing through the content without worrying about dying, this right here is a really nice build. And like I said, just adapt it to your playstyle as you get better mods and as you start gearing up. As always, guys and girls, I hope that's helped a few of you out. Take care. I'll see you all next day.